You know how much effort it takes to drown a town of people? Think about that logistically, what that takes. I want to make a series here on TikTok and call it White Black History, because as a white person, I know we don't get taught the truth. Not in America. I'll give you an example. It would be like the Tulsa Massacre, where Black Wall Street is what we called it, an extremely wealthy black neighborhood, was beaten and burned down. Another one's like the Wilmington Massacre in North Carolina in like 1898, where a group of white supremacists just decided to overthrow the local government that was biracial and then just kill all the black people. Show me that in your history book. Or you have like the CONTELPRO and like the targeting of black leaders from like 1950 something to 1971, where basically it was an FBI initiated program that was designed to infiltrate and target black leaders, black communities, anybody who was really outspoken against things. We just don't learn these things. Like literally the FBI and the CIA have been involved in the disparagement, displacement, and eradication of black people and their wealth for ever. Then when somebody brings it up, we sound crazy because you haven't heard it in a textbook in 6th grade. Why would we teach you you're the bad guy? It's crazy.
Fuck?
It's crazy the amount of things that we don't get taught that are actual things. There was several black towns that were drowned. Think about that for a minute. Do you know some more white black history for you? Things you weren't taught in school? So this happened in 1898, which at the time, they had some progressive movements. I'll give North Carolina. How much work? He was lynched from this bridge for raping a white woman who he had never even met. Welcome to White Black History. Things you weren't taught in school that are part of your everyday life. Today, we're going to talk about the Ed Johnson Memorial. So this memorial I pass all the time. I actually cross the bridge, which is part of the memorial itself, pretty constantly. Ed Johnson was just one of 4,400 people who were lynched between 1857 and 1950. Those are the known ones. There's probably, absolutely guaranteed, thousands more. Now this bridge connects the north and south end. The north end was primarily African American. The south end was industrial and white. Ed Johnson was a laborer. He worked on this end of the shore, but he lived on the other. A local man accused him incorrectly of raping a woman who he had never met for a bounty of $375. He was just trying to collect the reward. Multiple black and white witnesses confirmed that he was working at the time of the event. He gets arrested, he gets taken to jail, and a mob forms outside. Then they move him from Chattanooga to Nashville, which is 4 hours as of current vehicle times. After that, the mob attacked that jail. Now, a sheriff and a judge were up for re-election at this time. That's important because they were supposed to be tough on black crime at this time. Mr. Johnson gets assigned 3 Caucasian attorneys, only one of which was ever handled a criminal case. Ed Johnson is tried by an openly hostile group of white Chattanoogans. People who are from where the crime happened, who don't look like him, who have preconceived notions. And you were white in 1906. There's no way you weren't racist. The judge bypasses all these people saying it wasn't him, gives him a guilty verdict, sentences him to death. I'm going to read you an exact quote. His lawyers advised him to accept the sentence, recommending it was better to die in an orderly way, better than to appeal and face the lynch mob. Bonus points. A white attorney named Noah Pardon, who was already working the case, convinced the most prominent black attorney in the area at the time, Styles Hutchins, to jump on the case. I don't want to get this part wrong, so I'm going to read it. Styles then unsuccessfully appealed to the Tennessee Supreme Court, and then they petitioned to the United States Supreme Court based on the fact that the fair trial had been violated. This led to him being one of the lead black counsels for the first time ever in a Supreme Court case. However, as history has shown us, they decided at the Supreme Court level that death sentence it is. At this time, they stayed his execution, and a sheriff was assigned to ensure his safety while they potentially reconsidered the verdict. That was March 18th. The very next day, a white mob storms in. Literally storms into the jail. Sledgehammers, crowbars, whatever it took, they break into the cell. Those are actual tools used. They dragged Ed Johnson 6 blocks, bound in rope, to hang him from this bridge, only to unload all of their rifles into him as he hung until their rifles severed the rope. I'm going to read you this last part. Hamilton County Sheriff Joseph Shipp had taken no action to protect Johnson. Despite rumors of a lynch mob, he had given most of his deputies the night off and refused to seek reinforcements from the National Guard or city police. After a reporter alerted him to the attack in progress at the jail, he walked into the jail, and stood by as they assaulted and took this man out for his lynching. This was the first and only trial held in the Supreme Court's history in the entire United States. That sheriff and 5 other parties were found guilty. They all served very brief prison sentences, and then upon returning home, this sheriff was greeted with what was known as a hero's welcome and was instantly reelected into sheriff. 2,000 people attended Ed Johnson's funeral, and both of the attorneys who supported him had to flee from Chattanooga based on the threats they were receiving for their lives. But that's white black history, right?
All right, Shalom Israel. I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash, for allowing me to do another lesson. Yahweh is who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, and there's no God beside them. I want to give double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone for being faithful witnesses to the Holy Spirit, and shalom to the elect, whom the Most High have given ears to hear. And I want to do a reply to this guy. I guess well, you see his TikTok name was Drinkable Brian, and fair use. You know, this is video is intended for educational purposes only. I do not stand to make any monetary gains from playing those videos. And yeah, so you know, I thought it fitting that he named his videos White Black History. All right, in other words, that's the story told, or that's the life lived under your oppressor, because little do you know he's your enemy. All right, it says from day one, all right, that there will be enmity between Eve's seed and the serpent's seed. All right, and traveling down the line, you can see there was an issue going on even in the womb from Jacob and Esau. All right, Esau, Edom, which is a so-called white man, a Caucasian man, and Jacob, which is so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, they never got along from day one. When you go into the story, all right, of as it says right here, you see Genesis 25 and 20. 22, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. You know, because even in ancient times, you know, when a woman will always have when she would oftentimes have pains in her stomachs in the time of her pregnancy, she would be nervous. So Rebecca, Salakia, Sarah, being an older woman, you know, being told that she was able to have children, she was saying, well, because remember, beforehand she was barren. And then through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, he allowed her to have children. So at that point of verse 23, she's saying, if I'm able to have children, what's all this commotion in my belly? Like, is there complications or something to that? Or something to that matter? And the Lord said, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. All right, so from the very beginning, these 2 children were meant to be separated or segregated, all right, from the time of entering into this world. The one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So Esau would have been considered the elder in this scenario, because he came out first. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. All right, now Jacob, which means Yaquab or supplanter, and Esau, which means Ishashwa, all right, going into wasted away is he. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Oh, I'm sorry, I said Sarah. That's actually Rebecca that bare Jacob and Esau. Salaki on that. Right? But yeah, from the very time of their entering into this world, right, there will be a separation, a quarrel in between them two. And that has never changed until this very day. You know, as a matter of fact, when you talk about the curses that the Lord will bring upon us, all right, from going away from his laws, statutes, commandments, all right, let me grab this. Deuteronomy 28, Salakia, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all his commandments, and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Right? So it goes into the curses. Cursed shall thou be in a city, cursed shall thou be in a field. Right? And then jumping down to 49. Let me start at verse 48. Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And you can look it up for yourself. When you go into a yoke of iron, you know, you see who? The famous picture of I forgot the guy's name. Salakia. When you type in yoke of iron, who comes up? Right? So-called blacks. Jacob. And this is the time of what? Hardcore bondage slavery. And we know who was the slave master. Right? There was actually a movie that came out not too long ago called Emancipation, where it depicts the guy, I can't remember his name, but it's actually I believe it's a very famous picture, where during pretty much the so-called emancipation of slavery, the guy who Will Smith, he played his character, he showed his back, which was full of like scars. Damn. Salaki, let me see if I can find that. Oh wow. Now they don't want it. All okay. So if you look at the back, you know, that depicts the harsh, I wish I could find this guy's actual name. Damn, this shit goes for 15 grand. You know, I'm sure you have a rich Edomite, you know, probably hell, even probably Trump got this in his house, who knows? You know, we got a rich Edomite that has pictures like this to remind him of the good old days. But, you know, getting back to the point, the yoke of iron, all right, it's easy to see who this is talking about. Again, going to prove that the curses, all right, will fall upon none other than you so-called blacks. And we say blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans because when you go into the disproportionate, people on welfare and are treated like shit, all right, you have to include the Hispanics. As a matter of fact, what they said in the time of segregation, they said no Jews, no Mexicans, and no blacks. There's no coincidence there. But it says, as a matter of fact, you so-called Hispanics were going into slavery before the so-called blacks. Right? They brought the blacks over here, after they did a number on you. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. All right? And there's actually a famous letter called the Willie Lynch letter, to where the motto was, take the mind, leave the body. All right? So again, he have destroyed thee. All right? To where, you willingly serve his God now. You willingly fend for him over your own people. So our people are destroyed. Hell, you'll willingly rap about destruction of your own people, right? For his FRNs. That's a people that's destroyed. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shew favor to the young. Okay? And the devil, Cristobal Colon, when you go into that movie 1492, Conquest of Paradise, and even certain books like The Lost Tribes, I believe it's called The Lost Tribes of Promised Land, something to that extent. It goes into how Cristobal Colon brought over a Hebrew interpreter. All right? I forgot, it was this Luis de Torres, I believe. And he had the guy by the name of Luis de Torres, and he was a Hebrew interpreter to Cristobal Colon. And when we go on to Obadiah, it speaks about, because the so-called white man, throughout all his rulerships, one of the main occurring national animals that he would use is the eagle. When you look at the Roman Empire, you look at America, I want to say Greece, but I have to check just to make sure. But it says, let me see. Right, Obadiah 1 and 3. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks. Which this man, he does not go back to he does not originally come from the Caucasus Mountains, but that's where he was bound up for a period of time. All right, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down. Right? And again, going into the point of how he was bring our enemy up over us. Who's our first enemy written of in, was that Psalms 83? Right? Which is, this is pretty much milk. All right, but for newcomers, this is meat to you. So it says, keep not silence, Psalms 83 and 1. O God, hold not thy peace and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacle of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Hagarenes. Right? So number one enemy is Esau, Edom. Right? And as long as we're under this captivity, we're going to continuously see, like you just had the latest victim, Sonia, what's her last, whatever her last name is, all right, calling Esau to her aid, all right, and he did what he was supposed to do, all right. He was supposed to kill you, right? He is your enemy, and as long as you're under this captivity, you will continuously be drawn out as such, as the enemy, as the problem, as the ones that need to be, when they talk about deep pop, the deep pop agenda, who they talking about, man. They're talking about you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. All right? And mind you, as I was watching this guy, it made me think of how, according to the curses, that we would be proverbs and bywords. Right? Which under this so-called white man is what we were known as black people. You see, before this devil, essentially, majority, or Salakia, essentially all nations, are of a darker hue. All right? Esau is the only strange one that came out like that. Right? But in history, even today, all nations, all right, they initially come from a darker hue. Right? There was even an excerpt from the book. There was an excerpt from the book, Who is Esau Edom? No. From Babylon and Timbuktu, where it goes into the history of how the concept of black and white came about. When you look it up, it comes from a Edomite German scientist by the name of I think Joseph Blumenbach. And it literally tells you that he was a racist, of course. And that's just this devil doing what the devil does. Because again, if society started in the eastern part of the world, right? And according to history, those of the eastern part of the world, the so-called East Indians, the so-called Arabs, the so-called Africans, all right, if they are a dark-skinned people, even the Israelites, of course, which to prove that, going to the I want to say Exodus the 4th chapter, where Moses, he stuck his hand in his bosom and it came out white, as well as Miriam. So if they were astonished at their hands being white, it's because obviously their hands had to be another color, before the Lord plagued them at that particular time, or before the Lord showed them a sign for whatever reason. All right, the point being is that all people are of a darker hue. Esau Edom, all right, the red man that walks upon the face of the earth is our enemy. All right, and our people are destroyed. Again, going back to Deuteronomy 28 and 48, he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. You see, even to this very day, you got a lot of our people, you go and vote for another so-called black person that looks just like you. All right? And that's your claim to fame. All right? Your claim to fame is to be black, in which black history is that of death. Okay? When you think about black, all right? Or even who's this guy? Denzel Washington, who played Malcolm X, said that on the movie X. He's pretty much going into he didn't say that, but one of his teachers was teaching him when he first converted to Islam, and he was looking up black. It means void of light, right? Without color, without knowledge, pretty much dumb, void of light. And that's far from our people, but that's what they put upon themselves from their enemy. Right? And to prove to you, I always bring out this scenario to prove to you that it's actually a derogatory term. Why don't you call East Indians black? Why don't you call a Syrian or a Lebanese person black? No, you would call him by his nationality. But to you, they would call you black. And you Hispanics ain't no different. You You Hispanics are no different. All right? You think you are because you speak a different language, but them devils over there in Spain, they look at you as dogs too. And don't be of a darker hue. All right? So that's pretty much it, man. I just want to get this lesson in. Again, going into the point of white black history. You are Israelites, and you are great people. All right? Your true history, it's talked about more so now. All right? But even still, you're looked at as lesser. All right? Was not pushed. It's not pushed of your sovereignty. All right? It's not pushed of, any hope for you. You're in slavery. We are in slavery, as a matter of fact. When you go into the true Israelite history, all right, you have great inventors that created this society, great athletes, all right, the smartest people that ever walked the planet Earth, right? If they was really honest with you, they would tell you, I'm talking about these elites, they would tell you who you are and how everything pretty much originates from your language, from your culture. All right? You make this place great. But, hey, Yahweh Shem Yahushua got to take us out of this place. That's all it is. We're meant, or the elect rather, is meant to come back. And as it is written, in adversity, they will seek me early. All right? And we are crying, as it is written of in Isaiah 60, give him no rest till he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Right? So you can show him who you really are. Because our people are beautiful and they're great. All right? And to have dark skin is a beautiful thing. To have woolly hair is a beautiful thing. Our power, when you go into, let me grab this, Revelation chapter 1, verse, do you know that the God of the universe is a dark-skinned man? It does matter. It's written in the scriptures. Revelation 1:13, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man. The 7 candlesticks represent the angels. All right. Whereas even the scriptures, I'll keep reading. One like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hair were white like wool, right? Proving that he had woolly hair, right? Because a lot of people like to say, well, no, it's talking about the color of his hair. No, this represents the texture, right? And his head and his hairs were white like wool. All right. Why didn't it say there's other things on this earth that's white, but why did he use wool? Because his hair texture was as wool. All right. As white as snow. His head and his hairs were white like wool. So Salakia on that. I actually made a mistake. This is showing you that his hair was white, but it's also moreover depicting that his hair was as wool, the texture of wool. As white as snow, and his eyes were as flames of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, right? Because he originated from the tribe of Judah. As a matter of fact, your enemy, when you go into Matthew's, the 2nd chapter, which brings you to Revelation, the 12th chapter, all right, the Romans, they had put, who's a Herod, specifically had put the edict out to destroy all male children under the 2 years old. So the angel had Joseph and Mary escape with Yahushua to Egypt. So you mean to tell me if this baby was a white, so-called white baby, that he would not stand out in Egypt? Nah, he was a dark-skinned child. And it says, his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. right? This is a picture we normally go to give you the depiction of Revelation 1 and 13. All right? And that's just his depiction. We're not saying that is literally how he looks. But according to the Bible, this is his depiction. And then you got Daniel 10 and 5 through 6, which pretty much says the same thing. All right? I believe Daniel 10 and 5 speaks on the Lord. Nevertheless, we know that the Lord, Yahweh, and Yahweh Shai look just alike. But anyway, you know, Lord willing, you Akim and you Akwaf were edified. Shalom to the elect.